Speak loudly.
Well, you were 8 years old when you. How old are you when you wrote your book? You know,
I was about 10.
10. But so I must have known you at least since you were 8.
Yeah.
Right? When were you 8? What year was that?
I was 8 in, 1986?
Okay. So it was before the work. So actually I knew Barry well before, because I was going up to Port Moody and there several times. Yeah.
My dad always had a good story
Yeah.
about.
So actually that's well before the work. So my memory is a little faded too. Okay, so I knew Barry well before the workshop.
Did Dad ever tell you that story about when he came to meet you the first time in the airport? And he'd always admired you so much and loved your work and skepticism and everything, and he was looking around the airport looking for someone extremely tall.
I was taller. I keep shrinking. You know? Now we're shrinking violet.
So, okay, we have three members of this diverse faculty, and you all bring certain skills to the table. Two of you have magic experience. Let's ask Jim first.
Well, I'm an amateur magician. I've been involved doing magic since I was about 6 years old. And as a result of that, ultimately became a member of the International Brotherhood of Magicians, which is made up largely of amateurs.
And why does that help you in working in these types of claims and issues?
Well, I guess magic always interested me in the same way that psychology interests me, because in each case you're talking about people's beliefs and expectations and violations of those beliefs. So when a magician does a trick, it's only successful if something happens that is impossible. And of course, when you talk about ESP and parapsychology, you're talking about things that are only called paranormal if they seem to be impossible. So there's a big connection in the way that people process the information and the way the beliefs are formed.
And Ray, of course, does physical magic as well as is able to read people's minds, I understand. Again, that has helped you gain an understanding of this world, the skeptical world?
Well, it's partly a blessing and partly a curse. Because of reading people's minds, you know what they're thinking, and that's not always good.
Yeah.
Now, for 6 years I was a professional magician, but I wasn't doing professional magic. I was doing what's called mentalism. And the reason I did mentalism is because I got paid much, much more money for doing a mind reading type demonstration, about 5 times what I could get doing a magic. But I love doing magic, but people paid me more. And also, once I was doing this, I didn't want people to associate me with being a magician, so I never mentioned I was a magician anymore. And so for 6 years I was professionally doing professional mentalism, which I don't like, because even then I was a little queasy about the ethical aspects of this. I never claimed to be a mind reader. I use now what we call the invited inference in psychology. By not claiming, I used to start my show by saying, look, I don't claim anything. I work hard at what I do. I hope you enjoy it, and I just do my show, knowing full well that they couldn't challenge me because I never claimed anything, and knowing full well that after I finished my show, they wouldn't believe I was a real mind reader. So even though I used what's called a nice disclaimer, I ethically was doing the right thing supposedly, but there's two kinds of lying that philosophers talk about. There's lying by commission, and you deliberately lies. And the equivalent here would be if I came out and said, look, I'm a real mind reader, I'm a psychic. That would be deliberately lying. But then there's lying by omission, which people think is okay. I didn't claim to be a mind reader, but I know by not claiming it and demonstrating it, then people are going to believe me. And they're going to believe me even more so because they made the inference themselves that I was a mind reader. I didn't tell them I was a mind reader. They had no reason to challenge me. And
about you did one little experiment where you found out that both black and white worked for your sitters.
Oh, that was a different kind of thing. One of the problems I had, I started doing magic. I did the first magic show for money at age 7. And I was a novelty then because I wasn't that good, but people said it was cute. You know, 7-year-old trying to do magic, so I was hired by the library for their story hour. So I was doing shows, but I couldn't travel because I was going to school and I was also just a kid. And so my people I tried to sell my show to every year were the same people, you know, same groups, the Rotary Club and so on. And so I had to do something new every year. I figured I had changed. So I took on other things. I saw, I never learned it, I never read a book on it, but I saw a magician called Polgar. He wasn't a magician, he did what we call a contact mining type of demonstration where you would hold someone's wrist and then he could locate, using you as a beacon, you locate hidden checks and stuff like that. And the other thing he did was he did hypnotic show. So I added the hypnotic show to my repertoire, and I just got up there the very first time I did it. I was being paid. I was bold. I can't believe how bold I was. I got up there and I did the show just like I saw him do it, and it worked. You know, people, I don't know if they really hypnotized enough, but they did everything they were supposed to do. I brought them up on the stage and I said, you're taking a shower, and they would that time doing a very good job of like they're taking a shower. They never touched their private parts. I know. They would shower and stuff. Then I said, I made a mistake. Our water's just ice cold. There's no hot water. And they would have goosebumps on their hands, and they would be freezing. And then I would say, now we got to fix it. Now it's too hot. And they would have welts on their hands sometimes. They'd act as if they were burning. They were running on a good show, and that's all counted for me. So I never knew whether there was real hypnosis or not, and I still don't know. and it's a very controversial area in psychology. But I was doing a whole act, not knowing anything at all about psychology or anything, but I was doing a hypnotic act. And then, as something new, so I did a memory act as well, and I kept adding things. And finally, in desperation, I started doing palm reading. That you don't do on the stage, but I was hired by fairs, you know, that churches would have, other people would have these charity bazaars, and I have a booth, and there'd be other booths, people doing other things, and I would have a booth. And usually the arrangement was they would pay me a fixed amount of money, or I charged a fixed amount of money, and anything that came in over above that went to them. But at the time I would share the funds. And that's when I was doing, so I began doing palm reading, and I had no belief in it. You know, I was aware of generalities and stuff like that, but I was saying very specific things. When you read palms, and I learned this from books, when you read palms, you can be very specific. At age 13, you had some problem with your heart, and you can read it. At age 32, something wrong with your head. And people would say to me, well, see me quite frequently, you're right on, could you know that? I know I didn't know that. So I was taken in by this, and I decided that maybe there's something to it. And unlike astrology, at least the lines are on your hand, you know, so they are connected to you. So I was kind of believing it, and I could convince other people I could believe it, including the chairman of the psychology department at my university. I used to read his palm. He called me in one time and said, look, I hear that you're going out reading palms, and don't you know that's a con, and you're taking people's money under false pretenses. And he gave me a lecture. I just listened to him, and I said, let me see your palm, and I gave him a little reading. He didn't say anything. I left. 2 weeks later, I got another letter from him. What happened?
There's a spider was alive.
I guess it wasn't.
Dead now.
Anyway,
Sorry.
That's good. That fits in nicely.
the spider was actually alive, and it was big and brown.
Okay. You're not afraid of a dead one, though.
No, he's
Okay.
ooey on
Is
the.
it brown or blue spider?
Yeah, well, he didn't.
It's not a black widow, is it?
It's not.
It startled me. I'm not exactly afraid of spiders. Okay, hold on.